Workers on Virgin Trains East Coast are going to strike at the end of the month. Staff will strike for 48 hours from the 28th of April, and the RMT union says it's in a row over the role of guards and their jobs. Andy MacDonald is the Labour MP for Middlesbrough and the Shadow Transport Secretary and joins us this morning. Morning, Mr MacDonald.
Good morning. Hi.
Morning. So we've got 2 days of misery for rail users in our region coming up. What do you feel about these strikes that have been announced?
Well, that disruption is obviously highly regrettable, and we've got 2 weeks to try to pull matters round so that can be avoided. And I think every effort should be made to try to avoid the strikes happening at all. But the whole background to this is an unhappy story about the attitude of train operating companies to the role of the guards, and we know that story, and it's about time that they just accepted that this is hugely important. There's a huge safety issue at play here, and I think the vast majority of people will want to see those guards guaranteed and maintained on the trains. Those of us who travel by train so much welcome the presence of guards on trains, not just for our convenience and comfort, but for issues of safety and security. And it's nonsense to put that in jeopardy in return for profit. We must put passengers first and not just completely adhere to the same old agenda. And there's also another basket of issues, I understand, with Virgin, opposite changing to the modelling of the rostering and the training. All of that's in the mix as well. But the common theme through all of these issues is this second person on the train that people really do want to see maintained.
And the bigger issue, of course, Mr MacDonald, is this is not just one company. This is, as you mentioned there, companies across the board. So staff and workers clearly feel this is a major issue.
They do. And we've seen the realities of this when trains are de-staffed in the way that some companies would like to see it happen. We've seen people trapped and dragged indoors. We've seen the incident in Watford where a train had to be evacuated. The train driver was incapacitated because of the effect of the landslide, and it was a trained guard with safety critical competencies who safely evacuated the train. You know, we live in a very, very uncertain world, and moving our public service, there should be public services, but moving transport services like this in this way towards such exposure is, quite frankly, ridiculous. And I'm sure the vast majority of people who use the trains, and those who don't think this is a good idea. Now
then, why is this dispute over who closes the doors still being allowed to drag on? Because it is dragging on, isn't it?
It isn't just about that, Lisa. Opening and closing doors, the door interlock issue is one singular issue in the whole basket of issues about staffing of trains. It's an important one because we've obviously got to make sure that is done safely. And in certain areas, you've got 1,100 people boarding a train, and the company would like to put the onus and responsibility on the driver to do all of that by reference to 12 screens. Now, you know, it's on curved platforms with great difficulty. There are huge issues about the door interlock mechanism, but the industry has been having sensible conversations about that for months. And it's bizarre that people like Southern in the south of the country, GTR, are pushing that issue at the moment when there's a sensible, intelligent, adult conversation going on about what's safe. It's called a platform train interface, and there's a sensible discussion going on. That's one part of it. But guards on trains do more than open and close doors. There's huge issues about safety and security, about disability access. And what we're learning more and more, the more you depopulate our trains, the worse that services get for the travelling public, and the more exposure they have to safety and security issues. I mean, you'll have been on a train when people have behaved boisterously, as they did when I came on my last journey north. It was the guard who just intervened and said, "You behave yourself, or you'll be walking from York. You won't be going any further." Mm-hmm. And that presence is greatly reassuring to people. And it's the whole panoply of issues need to be considered. It's not just about that one single issue.
But the RMT says it does want specific assurances that a new position of train manager will retain the safety critical roles that are held by the guards at the minute. Can you see an end to this anytime soon?
Well, I think, you know, if people came to their senses and said that clearly common sense, but they should retain those safety-critical competencies. And then I'm sure that both the RMT and ASLEF have got the willingness and capability to make progress on all those other issues, that it can move. This whole issue is about compromise and dispute resolution, and that all parties should be in that business. But this critical issue should be sacrosanct, and it should be said that should be common ground. And I'm absolutely hugely disappointed that the train operating companies don't look at it in that way. They just see depleting their staff, reducing their staffing costs is the only thing that they're interested in to make sure that they retain their profitability. And I'm afraid that's got to play second fiddle to passenger safety on every occasion, as far as I'm concerned.
Andy McDonald, Labour MP for Middlesbrough and a Shadow Transport Secretary, thank you for your time this morning. And of course, those 48-hour strikes affecting workers on Virgin Trains East